So now let us continue discussing about your cell, and this time around we will be talking about the inside of your cell. So basically we are talking about your different organelles, starting from your cytoskeleton. We will also be talking about your flagella and cilia. Then we have your centrioles, your your Golgi apparatus, your mitochondria, your nucleus, and lastly, your vesicles. So to begin, first, let us talk about your cytoplasm. And as you all know, your cytoplasm is the fluid that fills your cell. So all of your cell contents are suspended in your cytoplasm, and your cytoplasm is actually a gel-like mixture. So cytoplasm is surrounded by your cell membrane, as you can see here in this image, and that it contains your hereditary material. And whenever we talk about cytoplasm, kids, this includes your organelles and your cytosol. So basically, this cytosol, this is referring to the fluid inside your cell, yung mismong fluid. And well, there are times na ini-interchange yung cytosol na term to your cytoplasm. Now, all that was mentioned a while ago is a part of your cytoplasm, but it actually excludes your nucleus. Now, the reason behind why hindi po kasali si nucleus in terms of the organelles that is suspended in your cytoplasm, because remember that your nucleus has a nuclear envelope, and this nuclear envelope separates the contents of your nucleus from your cytoplasm. So kaya parang independent din siya na structure ng cell nyo. How about your cytoskeleton? Now, cytoskeleton maintains the shape of our cell, and it also positions your organelles. It changes the cell shape depending on kung ano yung nasa surrounding, or kung ano yung need, or kung ano yung function. And there are actually 3 different types of protein elements involved in your cytoskeleton. So we have your microfilament, your intermediate filament, and your microtubules. Now, looking at the image here on your right side, structure pa lang nila, kids, you will already have an idea as to their difference. Kasi sa structure pa lang, magkaiba na sila. Microtubule being your largest, microfilament being your narrowest. Now, I actually have a table here presenting the differences, kung ano yung differences ng tatlo. So again, we have your microtubules, your microfilament, and your intermediate filament. So ano yung pinaka-main difference between microtubules and microfilament? So number 1 na titingnan nyo, kids, is in terms of its protein subunit. Because microtubules are made of your tubulin, while your microfilaments are made up of your actin. Now, intermediate filament differs iba siya compared to your microtubules and microfilament, because your intermediate filament, wala po siyang role in terms of cell movement. Intermediate filaments are purely structural in terms of function, in which they bear tension, they maintain the shape of your cell, and they actually anchor your nucleus and other organelles in place. So more on in terms of yung na-mention natin kanina na function ni cytosol na maintains organelles in place, ito po, yung intermediate filament nyo po talaga, yung may pinakamalaking responsibility in terms of anchoring your nucleus and your organelles. So how about your microtubules and your microfilaments? So in terms of cell motility, both are involved, but for microtubules, dun sila sa motility when it comes to your cilia or flagella, while your microfilaments, dun siya sa pseudopodia. So you get to see the difference between your cilia, your flagella, and your pseudopods just by looking at this image. Cilia are hair-like structures, flagella is yung tail nyo talaga, pseudopods are false feet, na parang extension siya, bodily extension that causes crawling movement. So yun yung other difference in terms of function. We could also actually look into how they maintain your cell shape Because for your microtubules, compression resisting, grinders sila. While for your microfilament, just like your intermediate na tension bearing din po sila. Tapos, another thing that you need to remember about microtubules is ito po, because microtubules are involved in the movement of your chromosomes during cell division and including the movement of your organelle. And then si microfilament, kids, because remember we are talking about tension bearing na element, so more on pinaka-abundant sila dun sa muscle contraction, especially in terms of the heart. So, ayun po, yung sa tatlo. So, next we have your centrioles. Now, centrioles is a small set of microtubules arranged in a specific way, and they are found in pairs and move towards the poles at opposite ends of your nucleus when it is time for cell division. So, recall your mitosis na processes. Di ba, ma-mention si centrioles, anak, kids? Now, the function of your centrioles are the following. In fact, they facilitate in the reproduction of your cells, they engage in the arrangement of your mitotic spindle, and they regulate the position of your nucleus and other organelles in the cell. Now, most of the centrioles, kids, are actually found near your nucleus, in that when looking under the microscope, you will never get to see a well-defined centrioles when your cell is not dividing. During cell division, what you get to see is a more condensed and darker area, to which that is what we call your centrosome. So, kaya yan po yung ating next, centrosome. So do not get confused between centriole and centrosome. Centriole, siya yung microtubule unit nyo, which makes up your centrosome. And that your centrosome is made up of 2 centrioles. So let us try to zoom in this image so that you get to understand kids. So ito, isang centriole, pag na-pair up na, pag may dalawang centriole na tayo, then that is now what we call your centrosome. And that centrosomes, during cell division, they are located at each end, as you can see here sa letter B natin po na image. So, describing the structure of your centrosome, as mentioned here, 2 centrioles arranged perpendicular to each other, and it is composed of microtubules, 9 clusters of 3 triplets. So, balik po tayo zoom sa image. Di ba makakount nyo po na there are 3 pairs of microtubule arranged paikot, and then if you count it, 9 na sila ka-set. So, yan po. And then, what is the function of your centrosome? It moves your chromosomes to ends of cell during cell division, referring to these portion, and it also produces your spindle fibers, which is required during your metaphase of mitosis. And that spindle fibers, kids, are found basically here in what we call your pericentriolar material. Parang specific area siya dun sa centrosome nyo. And from the word pericentriolar, usually yan siya yung nasa center dot portion of your centrioles. So, please be careful when you are being asked as to who produces your spindle fibers. Centrosome ang answer. Kasi yung definition natin kanina kay centrioles, engage lang po siya sa arrangement ng mitotic spindles nyo or your spindle fibers. But what really produces your spindle fibers are your centrosome. Next, we have ribosomes. So, of course, we all know the function of your ribosome. Diba? As highlighted here sa second bullet, they are site of protein synthesis. Now, ribosomes are actually made within your nucleus, specifically in your nucleolus, and that it is consist of ribosomal RNA plus the addition of your proteins. So, you get to understand ano tong mga ribosomal RNA, diba? Meron din po tayong messenger RNA and transfer RNA. So, we'll get to discuss more of that when we reach your transcription translation processes. And then, your ribosomes contain large and small subunits, just like this one. Ito po na image. So, yung 60S, 40S na nakikita nyo, it is just a model referring to your eukaryotic cell. Kasi po, when we talk about prokaryotic cells, yung ribosomes daw nila are made up of 50S and 30S subunits. But just remember, kids, na, diba, may purpose. If maalala nyo pa yung discussion sa inyo regarding transcription translation, regarding protein synthesis, itong larger portion ng ribosome nyo, more on sa pagkatalyze ng peptide bond. And diba yung smaller unit, itong 40S nyo, yung smaller unit ng ribosomes nyo, dyan yung decoding ng genetic messages. Diba? May purpose po yung dalawang unit ng ribosomes nyo. But then again, if you do not recall that one, so we'll leave the deeper discussion about it once we reach that topic. So, ribosomes can also be attached to your endoplasmic reticulum or free in cytosol. Diba kaya nga po tayo may tinatawag na free ribosomes and bound ribosomes. But still, whether they are free or bound, both same ang function and still it's for your protein synthesis. Ito po actually yung ine-emphasize nitong nung first na image on top. Diba ribosomes can be found floating free or attached to your endoplasmic reticulum. But either way, kung free or bound, same pa rin yung function for protein synthesis. Next, we have cilia and flagella. Now, both are specialized for motion. Your flagellum is a single tail-like structure, just like what we see sa sperm, wherein the very purpose of your flagella sa sperm is for propelling your sperm forward in the reproductive tract until such time that it will find an ovary where it will fertilize the egg, and then you know what happens next. While your cilia, they are always in groups and they are found in your respiratory system, like for example, sa mucus. Diba, cilia again are hair-like structures. And basically, ang purpose ng cilia is in terms of flapping back and forth when ilang movement. Flapping back and forth, ang kay flagella mga good kids is wave-like motion na naga-whip, whipping wave-like motion, while cilia flap back and forth. And although cilia helps in the movement, but it also helps in terms of absorbing your substances. So in terms of the respiratory system, yung mga naaamoy natin dun sa nasal part, diba, murag sila na ang nag-help og move sa katong, unsa man ang atong ma-inhale, moving pasulod. And it could be for trapping also, especially if mga foreign material sila na dili need sa atong body. Next, how about your endoplasmic reticulum? So, looking at the structure of your endoplasmic reticulum, diba, they are network of folded membranes and that they function for the synthesis and for intracellular transport. Now, the double membranes that you get to see in your endoplasmic reticulum, which form a sac, is what we call your cisternae. So, remember that there are two types of endoplasmic reticulum. So, ito po yung ating endoplasmic reticulum na portion. There are two types. You have your rough endoplasmic reticulum and you have your smooth endoplasmic reticulum. The only difference between the two is in terms of the presence of your ribosomes. So, kaya siya rough because it is studded with ribosomes. Kaya siya smooth because it does not have any ribosomes present. Since your rough endoplasmic reticulum are studded with ribosomes, then therefore one of its function is for protein production. But other than protein production, it also serves as somewhat a quality control, checking if tama yung mga proteins na na-produce ng ribosomes nyo. And if ever hindi po siya tama, then it will be rejected. Rough endoplasmic reticulum also releases glucose in your liver cells into the bloodstream. They are also responsible in doing that. How about the role of your smooth endoplasmic reticulum? So mainly it is for lipid synthesis. Most of the endoplasmic reticulum found in your liver cells, ang purpose nila is for drug detoxification because of course that is one of the functions of your liver, diba? They help in cleansing our body with toxins. And another thing about smooth endoplasmic reticulum is that it is also used for storage and release of your calcium in muscle cells. And this smooth endoplasmic reticulum, if ingani ang ihang function, kids, we call that your sarcoplasmic reticulum. But then again, it's just the same. Parang naging specific lang yung name niya. But then again, it is still a smooth endoplasmic reticulum. And very important ang calcium nyo, kids, in terms of expending energy whenever we use our muscles, and in terms also of contraction. Next, how about your Golgi complex? Diba? Consider your Golgi complex as your packaging or factory or your packaging plant. Now, Golgi complex was named after Camillo Golgi or Golgi, who was an Italian biologist. So looking at the structure, same sila with your endoplasmic reticulum, na diba mga naay membranes, and that membranes are what we call your cisternae. But the difference between your ER and your Golgi is that naay bulging edges ang inyuhang Golgi complex, which are this one. So, if i-describe daw ang structure ni Golgi complex, so it looks like a stack of pita bread. So, the function of your Golgi complex is that they gather simple molecules and combine them to make more complex molecule. Diba sila man na ang receiver sa kung unsa man ang gina-release or na-create sa inyuhang endoplasmic reticulum. So, once they are able to make a complex molecule, they also move materials within and outside of your cell. Mo bitaw na ay bulges diri sa kilid, kids, because that is how they export your different molecules through the process of exocytosis. Now, Golgi complex could modify your proteins, like for example, your glycoproteins and your lipoproteins. And these glycoproteins and lipoproteins can become part of our plasma membrane, can be stored in your lysosomes, especially during cell digestion, or it could be exported by exocytosis to be used to our other organs or other cells. Next, we have your lysosome. Now, lysosome contains your digestive enzymes. So, this is your digestive plant for proteins, fats, and carbohydrates, and it helps in the final processes of digestion within cells. May mga substances kasi tayo, kids, na upon the production of your endoplasmic reticulum and the release of your Golgi complex, inactive pa rin sila. So there are times that lysosome would help in activating these substances. So importante po masyado yung mga digestive enzymes na present kay lysosome to activate other or certain substances. So cells break down if lysosome explode. So this is how important your lysosomes are. Pag may problema sa lysosome, kids, it will cause the death of your cell. So hadlok kaayo kung ang problem si lysosome, because as you can see, as mentioned here, your cells will break down. But there are cases that it will normally break down your cell, and in what cases po ba? It will carry out this what we call your autophagy, which means destruction of your worn out parts of cells. So syempre, if may mga parts yung cells natin na not properly functioning well na, then that's the time that your lysosome will tend to kill or destroy that certain organelle. Or if old na masyado yung cell, then that's the time that your lysosome will also perform autolysis. So from the word lysis, so meaning to say, yung i-break down. Yung phagy nyo, again, it is in terms of engulfing, di ba, food, katong inyuhang, yung inyuhang phagocytosis, murag in relation to that, ang kana siya na term. So, one example of a disorder wherein there is one missing lysosomal enzyme, that is your Tay-Sachs. And what usually happens when a person has a Tay-Sachs na condition is that it will lead to a nerve destruction. And this is actually a hereditary na disorder. So kung sa man to na specific na enzyme, that is actually your hexosaminidase. And without your kaning atong ginatawag na hexosaminidase kids, there will be accumulation of abnormal cells, especially sa nerve cells sa ato ang brain. Muna hadlok pud biya kayo na sakit ng ginatawag nato na Tay-Sachs. Next, other small bodies that can be present in our cell are the following. So dalawa po siya. One, we have your peroxisomes. Now, peroxisomes hold on to enzymes that require oxygen. So this is an oxidative enzyme, and that peroxisomes help in the breakdown of your fatty acids. It could help in digesting alcohol and protect cells against hydrogen peroxide. So basically, peroxisomes help in the detoxification process, and that is why they are very abundant in our liver. So we could actually consider peroxisomes as an antioxidant in a sense na since very harmful biya kay ng hydrogen peroxide kids, and since it is able to protect our cells against that harmful substance, so it could maintain our cells in a healthy condition. Next, how about your proteosomes? So proteosomes, or proteasomes, digest a needed or faulty protein in which it will undergo help in the process what we call your proteolysis. So from the word again, lysis meaning breakdown, kanang proteo dira kids, that is referring to your protein. So this is actually a chemical reaction that breaks down your peptide bonds found in your protein. So faulty proteins accumulate in your brain cells, and once there is accumulation, so nadayon ni siya ng mga sakit kids ang pwede na mag-occur. So it could be your Parkinson's disease, or it could also be your Alzheimer's disease. Next, we have your mitochondria, and diba, as you all know, as we always define mitochondria, it is considered to be the powerhouse of your cell. So when we look at the structure of your mitochondria, di ba mura siyang sausage with many folded membranes inside, and that folded membranes are what we call your cristae. And it also contains a liquid matrix which contains different enzymes. Now, mitochondria could also have some lang, very gamay, some DNA, and they could also have some ribosomes. So meaning to say they can make their own proteins, they can make their own genes mo na natay ginatawag na mitochondrial DNA. Then again, dili lang gyud dara ang ato ang source. So what are the function of your mitochondria? Diba, nutrient energy is released and trapped in your ATP. Thus, the reason behind calling it a powerhouse, because sila ni ang kanang naadyoy daghan na makreate na energy or ATPs. It produces energy through chemical reactions by breaking down your fats and carbohydrates. It controls level of water and other materials, and it recycles and decomposes proteins, fats, and carbohydrates. So you'll get to understand more as to the role of your mitochondria being a powerhouse of the cell when we get to discuss your metabolism, nakatong mga glycolysis ninyo, so natay ing ana na discussion sa finals. Sige, so let's proceed to your nucleus. And as you all know, diba, nucleus is somewhat murag brain as it directs all cell activities, in that it is separated from your cytoplasm by your nuclear membrane or your nuclear envelope. Now, looking at the structure of your nucleus, it is round or oval, and it is surrounded by nuclear envelope with nuclear pores. It also contains your nucleolus, which makes ribosomes that pass into your cytoplasm through the nuclear pores. So that is actually the very reason why there are nuclear pores or naay somewhat opening sa nuclear envelope ninyo, because that is where your nucleus will export certain substances like your ribosomes. Murag agianan siya sa inyuhang ribosomes para masend siya sa inyuhang endoplasmic reticulum. So, nucleus store genetic material in genes arranged in 46 chromosomes. Kaya diba, ano biyata? Diploid. In that your DNA contains information for directing protein synthesis. Either sa mismong cell, kung asa nato gamiton ang protein, or it could be by giving out that protein sa mga bago na cells, which are formed by cell reproduction. So nucleoplasm, it is equivalent to your cytoplasm, but basically it is in the nucleus. So it is the suspension fluid that holds the cell's chromatin and nucleolus, and it is not always, it can be, dili siya always present sa inyuhang nucleus. There are some na walay nucleolus. Then again, when the cell divides, your nuclear membrane dissolves, the nucleoplasm is released. So, mo ni siya actually ang reason behind. Now, whenever your cell divides, your nuclear membrane dissolves, and upon the dissolving of nuclear membrane, so your nucleoplasm also goes out. So, after the cell nucleus has reformed, your nucleoplasm fills the space again. Sorry kids, bulul-bulul. So how about your nuclear membrane or envelope? So again, they surround your nucleus. They are made up of two layers, and that you get to find, diba? Openings, allowing materials to enter and leave your nucleus. So mo ni siyang itsura sa inyuhang nuclear membrane na amoy mga nuclear pores. Dara na dayon to inyuhang nucleolus. And then, ang nakasuspend sa inyuhang nucleoplasm are your chromatins. So, your nucleolus, they are found inside your nucleus and they contain your RNA in order to build your proteins. So, that's it for your organelles as to what is inside your cell. So just a short discussion lang po, kids, regarding the chemical composition of the living matter. So this is in relation to the properties of your water. But before that, in terms of the chemical composition of every human being, most of our tissues are made up, diba, major content yun sa atong body is water. It comprises around 70 to 90%. The rest of the 10 to 30% are other solids or substances, and that 1% is inorganic and the rest are organic substances. So let's talk about water. Now, water is the major component of your cell, and it is often referred to as an inert space filter in a living organism. So whenever we talk about inert, meaning to say it does not have any ability, kids, to move or to resist motion, kumbaga inactive siya, nga na ang inert. It is also a strong dipole, so meaning to say it carries opposite na ions, both positive and negative, and it has a high dielectric constant. It is highly reactive when unusual properties, different physically and chemically from other common liquids, and that water and its ionization products, which are your hydrogen and your hydroxide, are important factors in determining the structure and biological properties of proteins, nucleic acids, lipids, and other cell components. So, muna isa sa ato ang tan-awon puhon-puhon during our discussion sa mga proteins, kaning mga lipids, is its structure. Now, water can either be found in a free state or in a fixed state. So, when water is found partly in a free state, they are governed by physical laws of osmosis and diffusion, and any disturbance to water equilibrium leads to an alteration in the water distribution. So, we've already discussed this one, diba, talking about your tonicity. Now, what will happen to the movement of your water if the solution or ang environment kay mas daghan ba ang tubig or mas less ba ang tubig? So, na-explain man ako ni siya. So, just remember that it greatly affects your red blood cells. That is why we need to maintain our surrounding in equilibrium. Kumbaga, balance yun tanan, kids. When it is in a fixed state, it is held in a state of hydrophilic colloid system, thereby conforming a constant constituent of the cell itself. It is also responsible for the maintenance of the shape and size of your cell, and the amount of fixed water in tissues varies with their functional activities. So what are your different inorganic constituents? So we have your sodium, potassium, calcium, in which this three is is in the form of chlorides, sulfates, phosphates, and carbonates, while the rest, your ammonium iron, iodine, manganese, cobalt, and zinc, this is in combination with organic radicals. And actually, kids, kaning first train ninyo, mo ni siya actually ato ang mga major electrolytes. Kaning mga ammonium iron, they are found at a very minute yun na level. How about your organic constituents? So, mo na ni siya inyuhang protein, carbohydrate, you have your lipids, and then your oxygen and your carbon dioxide. Sorry na, mali yung press. So, last 3 slides na lang, kids. So, properties of water of biological importance. So, actually, most of this na-mention nato kaganina, but just a review that these are just some of the properties of our water na electron dipole sila, di ba, considered as your universal solvent. They are an ideal medium for the ionization of substances. Their freezing point, boiling point, vapor pressure, and even osmotic pressure are altered depende sa kung unsa ang kadaghanang solute na present. They have very high surface tension, they have high specific heat, high latent heat of vaporization, high latent heat of fusion, and has the capacity to conduct heat readily. So some other important properties of water is that water is very cohesive. So when we say cohesive in relation to the word cohesion, meaning they tend to stick itself. So an example of how cohesive water is that in terms of allowing insects and spiders to walk on the surface, just like how you see this one. Water is also adhesive, kids, in which when we talk about adhesion, it means that it sticks to other things. So cohesion sticks to itself, adhesion sticks to other things. And the most or best example for adhesiveness sa inyuhang water is kanang capillary action na iyahang ginabuhat. Diba? I think we all tried experimenting leaves in terms of placing water na, di ba, para maklaro nato ang capillary action sa ato ang water sa leaves. Di ba, ginabutangan nato na siya og colored na mga dyes para ma-observe nato na upon placing your leaf, di ba, musaka ang water up, absorbing it. Another example of that would also be regarding kani sa image na akong gisulat na kaning sa inyuhang paper. This is actually an example already of your paper chromatography wherein upon placing paper on top sa water na naay colors, iba i-absorb lang dayon na sa paper, and along sa pag-absorb, there is separation of colors. Next, water is considered to be a universal solvent because it is able to dissolve many other substances due to its polarity. Differences in charges or pulls or pushes substances apart, like your magnet, which attracts or repels other magnets. Water also exhibits evaporative cooling, wherein it removes heat when it evaporates from a surface. Di ba what? That is the very purpose nga no ta mag-sweat. Okay, whenever we do certain activities, rigorous activities, diba, ang tendency mong good anak kids, diba, murag mo init na ang ato ang lawas, and in order to cool down the heat that we feel in our body, that is why we sweat. Next, water expands also during freezing. It expands into crystal formation, releasing heat, and that is why ice will float on top of water. So that ends our discussion. So basically, we will be having our quiz by Tuesday, and our next topic na dayon during that day is your amino acids and proteins. So I hope you learned a lot, kids, and if there are any questions or clarifications, so feel free to message me or we could talk about it during our class. Thank you so much and goodbye. God bless everyone.